a nice enough guy. I'm a cool kind of guy.
What's the big idea? Where's the ice cream in this joint?
Then I get a little sugar in me and I start to go cuckoo.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find an internet figure who has had a bigger impact on online comedy than Sam Hyde. From being the frontman of the comedy group MDE to feuding with fellow creators such as iDubbbz and Hassan Piker, this man has been around the block. But despite his lasting relevance, you'd be hard-pressed to find many in the mainstream willing to utter his name, let alone associate with him. This often gets summed up as him being controversial, but plenty of other comics make edgy comedy that haven't been blacklisted, and when you ask his critics to explain further, I notice they have trouble elaborating beyond accusing him of vague misconduct. So today I wanted to make a Sam Hyde video, but rather than simply looking at his entire career, I really focused my research on digging deep into the many controversies surrounding him, to separate fact from fiction. And the further I got, this timeline of drama became so convoluted that I began to understand why people have trouble summing up why they feel the way they do about Sam. But before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. I was actually extremely excited when they reached out to me again for another brand deal opportunity, as I have loved their standing desk that I got last time. This time, however, they wanted me to try out their Japanese joinery bed. In the past, when I've bought a bed, there was a million parts with all these different things that I had to screw in, and good luck trying to get that apart if I ever had to move. In fact, moving furniture is probably the reason I'll never leave my house. But with this Japanese-style bed, I was able to slide all of the pieces together seamlessly with very minimal use of hardware. And if I ever needed to, I could pop it back out. On top of this, the inward recessed legs enables the frame to sit snugly against the wall, providing stability and minimizing the squeak as well. And this isn't like other brands where you're getting something that feels slightly more premium than cardboard. It's made out of solid wood. The rubber wood it's composed out of is a hardwood with high hardness and strength and is not easily damaged. I'm not just saying this, I was really impressed by the build quality. And the company also wanted me to point out how seamless the ordering process was, which I can vouch for. FlexiSpot ships within 1 to 2 days and delivers within 3 to 5 days. I think when you combine how customizable their furniture is, along with how cost-effective it is for stuff that is real hard wood, it's a no-brainer to go with FlexiSpot. So to check out their furniture for yourself, click the link in the description down below or use code TGFM at checkout for an instant discount. Sam Hyde was born in Fall River, Massachusetts on April 16, 1985. Little is known about Sam's early life, but his story truly begins at the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the most prestigious art and design universities in the United States. This is where Sam conceptualized $1 Million Extreme, which originally served as the title for his senior thesis.
Alright, it was real cool chilling with you bros, but now I have to get back to my home year of 2008. See you guys, laser!
OMG! He did not just say that! Dude, it's see you guys later!
Summed up as a compilation of short sketches and crudely edited commercials, Sam's thesis project served as the blueprint of what would become the MDE we know today, characterized by its surrealist humor, campy editing, and transgressive messaging. But RISD was more than just the birthplace of the MDE moniker, as it was also the place Sam met a fellow student named Brian Rochefort, who introduced Sam to his cousin Nick. Nick would team up with Sam to officially create a comedy sketch group that began uploading sketches to YouTube in 2010, eventually teaming up with Charles Carroll to become a trio. And there was likely no better time for their journey to begin, as online content creation was exploding in popularity. It's safe to say that they heavily benefited from being early adopters to the medium, although there's far more to their eventual success than just that. What needs to be understood is that $1 Million Extreme was more than your typical sketch comedy group. Their content output was more akin to directionless posting than a calculated formula. Nothing was too raw or unpolished to be uploaded. Some videos were high-effort skits, while others were mindless bits of Sam talking to himself in the mirror.
I go through my day pretty normal, like I'm a normal guy, I'm a swell guy, I'm a nice enough guy, I'm a cool kind of guy, I'm a pretty groovy guy.
What's more is they often blurred the lines of fiction and reality, taking to the streets and involving random passers-by, adding an element of improv and chaos to their pre-planned bits.
Blonde white man, please do not look at this nice Asian lady. Privilege. The privilege makes me sick. Anyone talk about Asian privilege? I don't think so. Peace.
This included open mic stand-up sets in which Sam would perform in extremely liberal cities, telling wildly offensive jokes that would often result in heckling, verbal confrontation, and even physical violence.
They say the cracker schools is more violent. They say the cracker schools more violent. I say it's the institution that societized the cracker to be violent.
Oh, shut the up. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're f***ing done. Get the out. You're
Their sketches oftentimes incorporated a prank-like dynamic, helping them stand out even further from their contemporaries. One of their best and most successful examples of this was a sketch simply titled Moms.
Get out of the
My
car.
mom touched my penis.
Your friends are waiting. Come on.
All my friends think I'm a gay faggot.
Why?
Because of you.
This video follows 4 young men being confronted by their mothers who had recently discovered their online chat room discussions. As a form of punishment, the boys were sat down and forced to read the crude messages out loud, all of which referred to each other's mothers. The sketch consistently breaks the fourth wall as 4 male actors hurl real-world insults at the women, who do their best to remain in character.
Karush's mom doesn't smoke, right? I'm trying to figure out why her smells like an ashtray. I guess it's because she's the pass-around girl at a local dive bar. Is that why Karush looks like so many different races mixed into one?
This is crucial in understanding the $1 Million Extreme formula, frequently blurring the lines of what was real and what was not, in the most abrasive and offensive manner possible. MDE offered an experience online that couldn't be found anywhere else, and it's understandable why they were able to develop such a cult following. That said, one of their most notorious stunts was still on the horizon, a 2013 TEDx talk hosted by Drexel University. TED Talks have often been subject of mockery, regarded as elitist and pseudo-intellectual performances with little substance or merit. Of course, this was exactly the type of thing Sam was known for exploiting. Behind the scenes, the group had been workshopping various jokes about living in the distant year of 2070.
Grocery stores, forget it. 2070? Kiss the grocery store goodbye. It's gonna be too expensive. People cook. Cookware is gonna be like gold.
This short clip was the blueprint for what would become a 2070 paradigm shift. As the story goes, when the young provocateur became aware of the TED Talk, Sam sent an email to the event's organizer, Daria Pujara, claiming that he was a war photographer who documented a female trash cleaning group in Somalia. In spite of its clearly ridiculous premise, Daria was impressed and offered him a 20-minute speaking slot. When the day arrived, Sam took to the stage completely out of breath, in a maroon beanie and sweatsuit, including a party store Roman-style breastplate. Sam continued to break conventional speaking practices by sitting on the stairs and loudly chugging water. Once the actual speech began, Sam pointed to the 9/11 plane hijackers as a textbook example of overcoming obstacles and accomplishing massive feats in spite of the odds.
Look at what they accomplished with no weapons and just 11 guys who didn't even speak English. And that proves that sometimes great ideas are actually horrible ideas.
Sam went on to give a handful of various predictions that await the human race in the future. This includes underwater farming, a trash cube economy, $10 gallons of gas, milk shortages, human milking factories, and the complete destruction of Israel.
What else we got here? State-enforced homosexuality. I don't have a problem with that. It's equal.
It was clear to most in the audience that Sam was making a mockery of the event, yet the showrunners allowed him to complete his presentation without interruption.
What inspires me is teaching African refugees how to program JavaScript.
In my opinion, to this day, 2070 Paradigm Shift is one of his best bits. At the time, it even got mainstream coverage from organizations such as BuzzFeed, which would eventually prove to be extremely ironic, as we'll soon see. Despite this, MDE would continue to operate in relative obscurity for the next 2 years. One thing was for certain, there was an undeniable talent and creative vision that couldn't be ignored. And it was only a matter of time before Sam and his crew got their first big break. In May of 2015, $1 Million Extreme would officially be picked up by Adult Swim to film a pilot episode for a prospective 15-minute TV spot. It would take over 1 whole year before the show would be officially released, but a notable event would take place while they prepared for their television debut. In November of 2015, they released their John Oliver shoutout video, in which they can be seen brandishing and firing various guns, and discussing hypothetical scenarios in which they would need to defend themselves. It was during filming that a now iconic photo would be taken, which would be used by Sam-loving internet trolls to misidentify mass shooting suspects going forward.
It was reported to me that he's actually not from this community. Apparently, his name was released as Sam Hyde.
To understand how the news stations could fall for this, seemingly every time there was a mass shooting, anonymous reports would flood in alleging that Sam Hyde was the culprit. Fast forwarding for a bit, this has turned into a long-standing tradition that has even managed to bleed into geopolitical affairs. Shortly after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, reports came in that a lone ace fighter jet pilot was responsible for shooting down 6 Russian planes, nicknamed the Ghost of Kyiv. This is now known to be a hoax, although many believe the mythical figure was in fact a real person, including former Republican House Representative Adam Kinzinger. The Ghost of Kyiv has a name, and he has absolutely owned the Russian Air Force. Godspeed and more kills, Samuel. This tweet was in response to a satirical claim that the ghost was Samuel Hyde, accompanied with a poorly photoshopped image of Sam inside a fighter jet. Fortunately for Sam, the blunders of the mainstream media would not prevent the eventual release of $1 Million Extreme Presents World Peace, which premiered with over 1 million viewers on August 5, 2016. As the following 2 episodes were released, they were met with glowing praise, and it was clear that MDE would be a powerhouse at Adult Swim moving forward. At least that's how it seemed at first. Unbeknownst to the general public, a massive scandal was brewing behind the scenes, and its effects would be dire for Sam. On August 25, 2016, an article was published to BuzzFeed News titled "The Alt-Right Has Its Very Own TV Show on Adult Swim." The article's author, Joe Bernstein, points to Sam Hyde's now-deleted Twitter account as a shining example of alt-right ideology. There's really only one thing that separates At Night of Fire, real name Sam Hyde, from the many other members of the angry, pro-Trump internet movement that grew out of Gamergate into a force capable of roiling American popular and political culture. Hyde has his own television show on Adult Swim. That might be the most 2016 sentence I've ever read. Sam was made aware of this article prior to its release, as he was asked to provide an interview with Joe himself. Smelling blood in the water, Sam filmed this interview and relentlessly trolled Joe until he hung up.
Do you consider yourself a member of the alt-right?
Of Adult Night?
Of the alt-right.
What is the alt-right? Is that some sort of indie bookstore?
The piece goes on to accuse the show of echoing similar sentiments, being a vessel of Sam Hyde's unsavory political ideology, and even goes on to claim that the show contained coded racist messages and swastikas that were removed by Adult Swim themselves. While there's no proof of this claim, it has been widely agreed on both sides that studio executives and employees had issues with the show and its creators. In the time since the program's cancellation, Sam has also posted rough sketches that never made it past the censors, with one of them being titled, "Thank You White People." The whole premise of the sketch was Sam rolling a boulder up a hill and panning over to minorities who thank the white race for all the things they accomplished.
Thank you, white man, for inventing the computer.
This adds further credence to the allegations of behind-the-scenes tension. Members of MDE claim that one disgruntled female employee attempted to break into the production studio and pour water on the equipment in the hopes of destroying their footage. A follow-up article published by Joe interviewed anonymous employees who also claimed that there was a growing sentiment behind the scenes to have the show canceled. Mike Lazo, executive vice president of Adult Swim, makes every decision there. A lot of people at Adult Swim have been on him, trying to get it not renewed. I know at least one person who is very high up there who was furious about it before it came out. This high-up individual is likely Brett Gelman, the creator of the Adult Swim show Dinner with Friends with Brett Gelman and Friends. Brett announced that he had been stepping away from Adult Swim in protest, citing their lack of female representation, and pointed to Million Dollar Extreme as a final straw. Following this announcement, Tim Heidecker of The Tim and Eric Show showed his solidarity with Brett and denounced Million Dollar Extreme. There were then allegations that Tim tried to get the show off the air himself.
You're listening and you hate this thing and you think it's evil, or you think that it's spreading messages of hate, misogyny, anti-Semitism, you should speak out. You should go and let the advertisers know what you think.
This resulted in a heated confrontation in which Sam would directly challenge Tim on his podcast.
Didn't you campaign against our show? Didn't you talk to people to tell them you didn't like the show?
Nope. Sam, I've talked about this for the past 3 weeks on the show. I've been very honest and forthright about my experience with the show and with your audience.
You've been pretty supportive of the effort to get the show pulled down. Because I wore blackface, which Sarah Silverman does 10 times a year.
Separate news publications would pick up the story and signal boost it to a whole new level. This includes the news YouTube channel The Young Turks, who discussed the situation with little understanding of MDE and its subject matter, a reoccurring theme for coverage of the drama. Co-host Anna Kasparian notably conflated a scripted sketch as a real-life prank, making her sound completely out of touch.
They like to do these ridiculous pranks where if they found a woman unattractive, they would purposely trip her into a glass table.
I'm getting more wine.
No, help yourself. $36 a bottle. Please enjoy it.
Ultimately, this wave of backlash was too much for Adult Swim to bear, and in spite of their initial intentions to renew the popular show, Million Dollar Extreme was cancelled. This is where Sam Hyde's story could have ended. After years of climbing the ladder, he lost everything in an instant, and was now destined to be a complete obscurity. The prospect of finding a home on television was now completely off the table, meaning he had to return to online content creation as a means to sustain himself. While nowadays the mainstream media is kinda dead, back in this time period in the 2010s, this was seen as a death sentence. MDE was now stuck in a state of limbo for the next few years, although controversy would continue to follow Sam in spite of his dip in mainstream relevancy.
Jeff Foxworthy type thing. You might be a redneck if. You might be Mike Brown if. Okay? So here we go. If you think it's a good idea to reach for a cop's gun for street cred, you might be Mike Brown.
In October of 2017, the YouTube music critic Anthony Fantano would become the subject of a hit piece article, similar to that of Sam Hyde 1 year prior. The article discusses That Is the Plan, a comedy commentary-style YouTube channel that the article's publisher, Ezra Marcus, described as alt-right. He points to Anthony's 4chan rhetoric and usage of the word kek as examples of how he attempted to pander to bigoted racists. The article has been widely disregarded by online spectators, as it makes numerous claims that could only be viewed as bad faith. The reason I'm mentioning this here at all is because the article also points to the critics' association with Sam Hyde as a crucial example of how Fantano was appealing to the alt-right. In his response video to the situation, he seemingly distances himself from Sam, claiming that he was unaware of the scope of his political ideology until after their collaboration. What's more, he went on to remove his podcast episode featuring the provocateur, a decision that left Sam feeling betrayed. Hyde has since made his disdain for Fantano publicly known, and even released a diss track against him in 2021. Much has been made of Sam Hyde and the alt-right, but things would reach a new boiling point later on in 2017, after the provocateur donated $5,000 to the defense fund of Andrew Anglin, a neo-Nazi editor for the white supremacist news publication The Daily Stormer. When asked about the donation, Sam made no efforts to deny it. Don't worry so much about money. Worry about if people start deciding to kill reporters. That's a quote. For the reason why, you can say I want reporters to know I make more money than them, especially Matt Pierce. You can play devil's advocate and argue this was done in an act of free speech absolutism. However, that doesn't entirely seem to be the case. More recently, a video was leaked that showed Sam Hyde attending a book burning, where they took turns throwing literature written by Jewish authors into a fire pit. Initially, journalists could only appeal to inflammatory tweets and subliminal messaging, both of which could be obfuscated by comedic intent. Later on down the road, this was far more difficult to excuse, and has been frequently pointed to as a key indication that Sam is a white supremacist. As I'll make a point to mention across this video, Sam typically prides himself on never truly breaking character, and always puts on a mask of irony to obfuscate his true beliefs. In the past, this was much more so the case, with Sam being characterized as a sort of genius by many of his fans. But as time has gone on, there have been quite a few mask-off moments that have led to his leanings and general personality to become much more easy to dissect. One of the most infamous of these followed in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk in 2025. The tragedy caused a political firestorm on Twitter, and Kamala Harris, like many of her fellow politicians, took it upon herself to make a statement condemning the attack and attempting to find common ground. In response to this, Sam called her the N-word with a full hard R. This also coincided with him releasing several lengthy rants about the current state of politics. The quartering at the time stated, "Do not watch the close-up video of Charlie Kirk. I am begging you." Sam saw things differently, to say the least. "You're my boy, but I respectfully disagree. Everybody needs to watch this because it could have been you. It could have been me. It could have been any one of us exercising the First Amendment. You all need to know what our enemies want. They want this for all of us. They want children growing up with dead fathers and mothers. All the snark and word games, moral posturing, and linguistic f***ry. This is what lies behind it. Bloodlust." As another example, he posted a tweet captioned, "5G got me acting different." Attached were several photos and videos of him doing Jew face. This resulted in some pushback from users who clearly felt like the bit was overdone and just not funny. Maybe once upon a time, when he was much more discreet about these sorts of topics, one could make the argument that there wasn't a way we could know for sure what Sam believed. But these incidents, along with the ones I mentioned earlier, paint a very clear picture of what his beliefs are. I'm not one to morally grandstand about this stuff anyway, since I too laugh occasionally at Sam Hyde's comedy. But it's not exactly a secret when he is quite literally telling everybody point blank that these are his actual opinions, and if you're still questioning that, then you're probably in denial. Another incident of him going mask off revolves around his episode on the Harland Highway podcast. For context, this podcast is hosted by the comedian Harland Williams. He's been around for decades, appearing in multiple movies, doing stand-up, and over the past few years has been featured on the Joe Rogan podcast and Kill Tony. All this to say that he's a comedy veteran who's been around the block a few times and knows how to roll with the punches, often messing with his guests in a very Norm Macdonald-esque way. Sam, of course, is very clearly someone who likes to be in control of the situation, with numerous MDE bits being built around him messing with normal people. With all this, it's not shocking that there would be a clash between the two comedians' personalities. Throughout the podcast, Harland picks up on Sam's shtick and starts to play along, clearly assuming that they would be bouncing off each other. Oddly, this just seemed to annoy Sam, and he very clearly grows more and more impatient as the show goes on. After a while, Williams begins to talk to Sam about great apes, saying he'd like to see Sam build a gorilla nest, with his assistant bringing in a collection of twigs and branches.
Gorillas and orangutans make nests every night. Like every night they get twigs and they make a nest up in a tree.
That sounds disgusting.
I know.
This completely sets Sam off, and he proceeds to flip the studio desk and basically destroy Harland's entire setup. He tried to pass this off as a joke, though you can tell by the facial expressions of the MDE crew sitting behind him that they were extremely embarrassed by this display, awkwardly laughing in an attempt to smooth things over.
How many can you put in your mouth at once?
Nosy.
How big of a mess can you make with those cookies?
I'm gonna eat your face!
Make a big cookie mess.
When this was released, many observers were baffled by Sam's behavior, seeing it as extremely immature and petty. The comments for the episode are filled with people, even those who are clearly MDE fans, mocking Sam and praising Harland for holding his ground. I know I'm jumping ahead quite a bit here in the timeline, but I wanted to include it as these are examples of when audiences saw his post-ironic mask slipping later on. Going back to the 2010s, even without his more modern shenanigans, donating money to a white supremacist and being an overall edgelord would get him in hot water with social media platforms at the time. Following these controversies, the $1 Million Extreme YouTube channel and subreddit were banned for terms of service violations, likely a byproduct of the volatile and offensive rhetoric frequently found within Sam's content, and ostensibly through his community. Not only had Sam lost his TV show, he was losing central online hubs for his community to congregate. He had to start from scratch with his own personal social media accounts and completely divorce himself from the MDE brand. As if things couldn't get any worse for Sam, numerous allegations regarding private interactions he had with a handful of women would grow increasingly popular online. If you're familiar with Sam Hyde, it's likely you've seen this image floating around various forums and social media websites. It's meant to serve as an infographic documenting Sam's alleged contact with an underage girl, but this goal is obfuscated by its lack of conciseness. On top of that, it's typically compressed to such an extreme degree that it is impossible to read. There are many other infographics in this style created to demonstrate Sam Hyde's alleged pattern of abuse, which I have to point out is an extremely atypical method of distributing such serious claims. The creator of these pictures is not entirely certain either. Some have attributed them to Sam's ex-girlfriend, Channing Kriegler, an individual we'll be discussing more in depth shortly. While she has made a reputation for herself as one of Sam Hyde's biggest public enemies, it's unlikely she's responsible, as some of them predate her public campaign against Sam. Some of these graphics are innocuous, to say the least. One accuses Sam of having sex with a transgender person, and another alleges that he likes to put various objects inside himself. But as previously mentioned, there are serious accusations that deserve a second look. So today, I want to do my best to break it down because no one else seemed to bother. The most notorious of these infographics begins with allegations made in April of 2015 by a woman named Charlotte on 4chan. She claimed that Sam had a propensity to walk the line in terms of legality, having a clear interest in girls in high school. What's more, she claimed that a separate woman reported Sam to the FBI for possessing CSAM. This also lines up with a story Sam himself told about a supposed crazy ex-girlfriend, though it should be noted he doesn't list names or get into specifics, so it's technically unconfirmed if this is the exact ex he's referring to.
Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'm going to be interviewed by the FBI, and I don't know why, and this is not a joke. Now, I was planning on making a funny, silly video when the FBI was here. I was going to write killer on my forehead, but, at the end of the day, I decided it might not be a good idea, messing with the feds like that. So, if I go missing, it's probably going to be Guantanamo or bust.
I assumed that it was because of the How to Bomb book title, roll up to the FBI place, and they're like, do you have any contact with children? Instantly, like the most fear I've ever felt. They meant like, are you talking to children?
Charlotte further elaborated on their alleged relationship on her personal Tumblr page, where she said, "We dated when I was a teenager. He was cheating on me with a teenager even younger, and who knows who else. He lied to us a lot, and we were both kind of like Stockholm Syndrome the out, and we were both a bit fragile and attached. I've spoken to several other girls Sam has been with, and he's done some really nasty shit to them, telling girls he wanted to meet up with them one day, then telling them their next husband should beat them again the next. I have a chat log of him threatening to ruin a girl's life if she didn't cut his name into her and send a picture. He got the picture, then posted it on his page telling his fans never to do anything crazy like that. At the very bottom, a separate single image tells the story of an alleged sexual encounter with Sam from an anonymous user known as The Box. When we got to my dorm room, it told me that I had a choice. Either I could give myself to him completely or he'd leave. He wouldn't let me kiss him as I stalled, asking if he'd respect that I don't want to lose my virginity. Eventually promised that he wouldn't f me yet, beta, and asked if I wanted to suck his dick, wrapped his belt around my neck, and to me as, yeah, you don't need details. There are marks on my neck from the buckle. While she does not name Sam directly, there are numerous contextual clues that indicate it was in fact him she was talking about. This includes Sam going on a live stream to deny the claim.
Did you the box from XOXO/auto-admit? Yeah, that girl is a fucking train wreck. I used to pick her up from the hospital after she attempted suicide. It was probably a bad idea. It's probably a red flag right there, but yes, but she's mostly lying about all that shit.
Take note of Sam's flippant response to the allegations. Rather than thoroughly clarifying what had transpired and providing additional context, he simply poisons the well with an unverified claim of her mental instability and calls everything a lie before quickly changing the subject. This method of addressing serious claims is a particularly common one for Sam, as we'll see moving forward. That brings us to the most notable and infamous allegations, in regards to a girl named Marky. In a 4chan thread discussing Million Dollar Extreme, one anonymous user alleged that they were a close friend of someone who knew an 18-year-old that Sam had been hooking up with. Through word of mouth, this user claimed that Sam would engage in emotional manipulation to get sex, and that the girl had recently moved into his apartment with him. That's when a second user jumped in to reveal their own personal recount of Sam's real-life behavior. Dude, are you me? I also knew a girl who lost her virginity to Sam. She told me he was really bad to her, but she still went out of her way to do things for him. She was also 16 years old, man. Attached to this comment is a screenshot depicting an alleged text message exchange between a 16-year-old girl and Sam. I'm gonna be real hard on you tomorrow. No, just 'cause it's time. Time to start using you the way I really want to. The user continued to post additional text message screenshots that displayed Sam speaking sexually to the supposedly underage girl, before revealing even more troubling details. According to the anonymous poster, the young woman had severe trust issues, was dealing with her parents' divorce, and had a less than ideal situation at home, all of which culminated in taking medication to cope with depression. She was also a massive fan of MDE, further complicating the dynamic of their relationship. The following week, the user would return, this time on the R9K board, in a thread discussion about Sam Hyde. This time they uploaded a censored photograph of Sam unclothed with a girl, with her face visibly bloody. In spite of the attempts to conceal the girl's identity, those familiar with the thread would actually manage to identify her based on what little of her face was shown. She was known as Marky, who had become notable after visiting the R9K board, where she was compelled to post nude photos of herself at the risk of being doxxed. What's more, Marky had previously been known to have associated with Sam, making it all but certain that she was the girl in the photograph. Over the years, many have attempted to piece together all relevant evidence and clues to prove Sam Hyde's guilt. This includes backtracking old video and images to attempt and pinpoint an exact date and location, to determine the age of those involved, and potential legal implications. It has been determined that these pictures were taken sometime in early 2014. Taking a look on a side project YouTube channel called Bug Sports, we see Sam with a similar haircut and facial hair. What's more, his physical location matches perfectly to the environment in the photos, most notable being the power cage and barbell directly behind Sam and Marky. Because of all this, Marky would have been approximately 16 years old, while Sam was 29 during their interaction if the timeline posited is correct. Marky has since responded to these allegations, confirming their relationship and corroborating the narrative of the original 4chan post. I remember sending a message to the MDE Facebook page, something simple along the lines of, "I admire your work, keep it up." At the time, I stupidly had my place of employment and hometown as public information, and I suppose Sam saw that I was local and asked how I'd react if he showed up at my work to say hi. So that's how we met, and one thing led to the next, and we were dating. Sam has since addressed both of these allegations, albeit as vaguely as possible. He claimed that Marky was simply a girl who got nosebleeds a lot, and said that Charlotte was upset that he hadn't returned her phone calls. Notably, he does not address the allegations of sexually engaging with minors. More recently, Sam Hyde was confronted about the allegations with Marky by the YouTuber Lieutenant Corbus, aka Soph.
I hone in and say, were you with her though? And if so, how old was she? And he says, okay, well, I'm not getting into this because you're a minor and I don't know you that well. I would just say all that S about her being 15 and me punching her in the face is fake.
Sam's cryptic and sparse acknowledgments of the allegations only serve to make him look more sus. That being said, his ambiguity paired together with the ineffective messaging surrounding the allegations created an air of doubt. Because of that, most people went on to just say who knows who to believe. That being said, there is one individual who has seemingly made it their life's work to hold Sam accountable for these claims, the aforementioned Channing. Sam's old ex met him all the way back in 2009 on the dating website OkCupid. While their relationship was short-lived, the two remained in touch for almost a decade, with Channing working for MDE for some time. However, after learning about the full scope of Sam's supposed wrongdoing sometime in 2018, she defected, frequently lambasting him on various forums afterward. Jumping ahead to 2023, Channing began frequently posting to Sam's Kiwi Farms thread, with the username Sam Hyde Pedo. She managed to create enough of a stir in the threads to be invited onto Mad at the Internet, a weekly live stream show hosted by the forum's owner, Null. Unfortunately, the woman was audibly intoxicated during her interview, incoherently giggling and mumbling to such an extreme degree that she was eventually kicked off the show for being annoying.
Well, there's no point continuing because you're obviously f***ed up on something. And what's really sad is that people are going to assume that this is like something that Sam Hyde put somebody up to. And I've seen your ID, I've seen your rental agreements, I've seen all your paperwork, so I know that this is the real person. You come up completely f***ed up.
I'm not f***ed up on anything, bro.
This public appearance did far more harm than good for Channing's case. Things would only get more chaotic in 2024 during a stand-up show in Fort Worth, Texas, where Sam would physically assault Channing, resulting in his arrest. According to the police report, Channing disguised herself as a man in an attempt to get close to Sam without him knowing. She intended to take a photo with the controversial comedian while holding a sign saying "Gay Child Rapper." But when she reached for the sign, Sam reacted by grabbing her by the neck and throwing her to the ground. Sam claims that Channing whispered that she had a knife and argued that she put him in a self-defense situation. Officers on the scene took note that Channing was speaking slowly and admitted to being, you guessed it, intoxicated. Regardless of how you feel about Sam, it is undeniable that Channing is an unreliable narrator, so her recount of events should be taken with a grain of salt as well. Her behavior both on and offline has created an air of doubt surrounding the accuser's claims. Because of her incompetence, people more sympathetic to Mr. Hyde were now free to hand-wave the allegations levied against him, claiming his detractor was a mentally unwell alcoholic who could hardly form a sentence, which was kinda right. As for the actual validity of any of the claims made by these women, it's ultimately uncertain since none of them went to the police. That being said, after looking at all the evidence and cutting through the nonsense, it doesn't look good for Sam. But unless some new information comes to light, nothing can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Still, with all of these infographics made by detractors, it was hard to imagine that Sam would ever recover. He was blacklisted from Hollywood, banned from social media sites, arrested for assault, and had multiple accusers claiming abuse on the fringe parts of the internet. This was truly the darkest time for Sam and the controversial comedy troupe, and setting serious allegations aside, things from the content creation perspective weren't exactly going well either. In the immediate aftermath of World Peace's cancellation, all the MDE crew members split off and went their separate ways, with Sam continuing on with content creation on his own. With the main $1 Million Extreme channel banned alongside his Twitter account, he basically had to rebuild much of his influence from scratch. The silver lining of the controversy and the ensuing cancellation was that there was now a defined core audience that was willing to follow Sam around no matter what. He leveraged this influence by creating content behind a paywall on Gumroad. This included several series as well as access to old material, including a PDF of their book How to Bomb the US Government, and his old internet show Kickstarter TV. Sam did slowly build up an audience again, eventually able to hire a small crew that assisted with the creative process. One of the more notable paywalled series that was created during this time, at least in my opinion, was Happy World Daddy. It was a bit more familiar in tone, with experimental graphics and comedy skits. It heavily involved Sam's new crew, with some of them even being prominently featured in sketches. It was also one of the first super notable appearances of the infamous troll Frank Hassel, which I also made a video about a while back if you want to watch it. Most of the content they created was much less structured and more amateurish, given the fact that they only had a fraction of the budget and resources compared to the Adult Swim days. They seemed to make it work, with Sam slowly but surely accruing a cult following. Despite this, in the grand scheme of things, he still had lost a significant amount of relevance. In a weird way, this added to his image though. If you knew who he was, you were in the know, as if being a fan made you part of some niche club. His blacklisted status also added to the allure for many fans who characterized him as a free speech martyr, but it also had the consequence of burning many potential bridges. Over the years, there have been many people who have popped up that very clearly take at least some stylistic influence from MDE. But avoid mentioning them like the plague, most likely due to a fear that they will be cancelled through guilt by association.
I've been watching your videos since 2014, and I've seen every podcast. I think you should have Sam Hyde on the podcast. He's hilarious, and I think you guys will work well together.
Who?
Sam Hyde.
Oh.
I'll check it out, dude. Thank you. I'm actually a fan of him. I think he's a really funny guy, but I'm not sure that... I don't even think he's in LA anymore, but anyway, whatever.
In fairness, this has happened many times, where even just an offhand reference to Sam creates a controversy. It was during this era that fans began noticing a rift that had seemingly formed between Sam and Charles. As stated before, the MDE crew had gone on to do their own things after World Peace had been officially cancelled. While relations between Nick and Sam seemed to be okay publicly, Charles seemed to harbor some resentment about the show ending. This would later be confirmed in a documentary filmed by Brandon Buckingham, which we'll touch upon more later.
You know, we were still fighting, you know, because people were like, oh, Sam should have never said anything to Joe Bernstein. That's what, and it really wasn't. It really actually wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have a chance. We didn't have a fighter's chance. It was, I didn't blame Sam as much. Chuck was pretty bent out of shape about it. They were mad at each other. And
the crew disbanded.
Yeah. And like, none of us talked. You know, like, we really didn't, truth be told, we really didn't hang out much.
Charles pivoted mainly to live streaming afterwards, eking out an even more niche fan base. At first, the hostility between Hyde and Carroll was relegated to passive-aggressive social media replies from both parties. As an example, in 2018, Sam made a tweet with the caption, "MDE forever," with Charles being completely absent from the photo. A fan replied stating, "I get this really odd feeling, like something is missing here, but good luck." Sam's response was, "Yeah, your shitty attitude." For his part, when people asked Charles about MDE on his social media pages, he tended to reply aggressively. At one point, a user criticized him for giving up on MDE in favor of live streaming. Charles replied, "Didn't give up anything. What's with all this? The very second I move out of a goddamned rat hole and get set up so I'm not on the streets, everyone's bitching at me." On another occasion, someone on Instagram asked, "Why would you not just work with Sam and make more stuff?" Charles would respond by saying, "Rolling on floor laughing. My life before this new era was hell. Never been better, thank you, legend. Finally have my life back." All of this suggests a serious falling out. In addition, Charles would at one point live stream himself drunkenly ranting about Sam and his continued attempts to revive world peace. To the dismay of hardcore fans, he made it perfectly clear he had absolutely no intention of working with Hyde ever again, even going so far as to claim Sam had sabotaged world peace.
You don't think World Peace 2, Season 1? Season 2 was sabotaged by Sam? You don't think it was sabotaged, huh? To make sure no one else could work with him for the rest of their f***ing lives? You think I'm lying, huh?
He also accused the comedian of being a sellout, manipulating Nick, and having no talent of his own.
It makes me so mad how Nick is forced to sell out, take a paycheck from his paymaster, Sam. It makes me so mad because Nick is so valuable. He's such a brilliant writer. He's such a brilliant performer. He gave everything away.
James Price, a sound designer and musician that had closely worked with the MDE crew in the past, would also later react to Brandon's documentary and provide some of his own anecdotes regarding the beef between the two former colleagues.
There was a time after the show got canceled, it was in the winter of, probably at the beginning of 2017, when I went to go visit Sam. Channing was there, and Joel was there, trapped, who curiously isn't mentioned in this. He lived with Sam for a while, and he was talking about Charles, I think Andrew, and maybe Nick, and about how they were trying to get their own show on Adult Swim without Sam, and something about them stealing his talent, and he was pissed off and told us never to talk to Charles again, or something like that.
It seemed to longtime fans that they would never work together ever again, and this was a sentiment that remained in place for several years. Thankfully, as time went on and plans for a new iteration of world peace became more realized, it seems Sam recognized it would be a disservice to continue without the original crew on board. Nick had already been on good terms with Hyde for a while at this point, collaborating on several sketches and having a podcast together called Perfect Guy Life. With that in mind, in 2023, Sam decided to make a public apology to Charles, owning up to his mistakes and asking him to return once again.
Okay, just to address the Charles thing, I will apologize to Charles. I will do whatever it takes to make it right. When I saw that stream, I reached out to him. I said, is there anything we can do to bury the hatchet and make sketches together? That's what I asked. That's where my heart is at. I do apologize for blowing up the show, for, not holding it together as strongly as I could have. That's all I can say about it, guys. That's it.
This actually did seem to work, and Charles relented, eventually being prominently featured in the second season of World Peace to great fanfare from their audience. Finally, after all these years, their prayers had been answered, with $1 Million Extreme now being officially reformed. But we're jumping a bit too far ahead here. Rewinding back a bit, post-Adult Swim and during his cult following era, many people were supporting him. He needed something bigger to happen to allow him to make World Peace Season 2 on his own. And interestingly enough, the catalyst for his second wind was originally intended to be the exact opposite. A hit piece meant to be the final nail in the coffin. This is where YouTube's very own stoic empath comes into play.
What we do here is go back.
When Sam's career was at a low, Ian, aka iDubbbz, was at the top of his game and attempting to rebrand himself, particularly with his documentaries about Airsoft Fatty and Dax Flame, the former of which currently sits at the most popular video still live on his channel. Fans were eagerly anticipating his next documentary projects, although no one could have anticipated just how bizarre its release would become. In early 2022, Sam Hyde uploaded a video to his personal YouTube channel titled The Truth About iDubbbz, which reveals that Ian had filmed an entire documentary with Sam and his crew, but bizarrely never chose to upload it. Sam made numerous attempts to contact Ian about the project, and was ultimately ignored as the weeks turned into months. Having made immense investment into the project himself, Sam decided that he was no longer going to wait, and chose to release his own independent version instead with video recorded on his end.
But I think he kind of wanted to he wanted to come out here and see something depressing. Part of it was he was going to come out and see where was I in my career after having fallen off or whatever, and I wanted to be well, we're just rapping, we're just spitting, we're laying down tracks now.
The reasons why iDubbbz would ultimately choose not to publish his documentary would become apparent as Sam's video progressed, as by all accounts Ian did not get what he had bargained for. What needs to be understood is that Ian often chose dysfunctional and socially stunted individuals to feature in his documentaries. While he was friendly to the people he discussed, there was a clear presentation of the subjects that highlighted their lack of social intelligence. Ian entered the documentary about Sam with the same intentions, believing that he would shine a light on his maladaptive behavior and unsavory lifestyle. However, Sam was far too smart for this to work. Knowing Ian's MO, Sam created what he described as a gaslighting document, full of various bits and gags designed to portray him and his crew as socially unaware and generally unpleasant to the visiting creator.
stuff to buy. Lots of alcohol, a bunch of Pokemon cards. Try to tell him what Pokemon is as if it's some new thing like crypto. Fill fridge with unbagged meat. A song with the hook. Swag like high dubs. Stage fight over who gets to use the alias Cream Boy.
To summarize, Sam was now an up-and-coming rapper from the mean streets of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. To assist him in his endeavors, he hired young talent who would provide him fire trap beats and financial advice.
Get crypto and you hold crypto for like a year and you forget you have it. And then you like remember the password and then 2 years later you're like, I'm rich.
Right, so the ideal strategy is just forget your passwords after you bought everything.
Not forget your password, but put it somewhere where you're not always touching it, so you don't sell your XRP too early.
What's more, Sam had now found love with a drug addict named Danny, who frequently attempted to steal items from Ian's pockets and question him about the weight of his head. Perhaps hubris was the reason that iDubbbz thought he could actually get away with punking Sam. Ian continued to indulge the antics for some time before their eventual sit-down where he confronted Sam directly and made his intentions known. As it turns out, this documentary wasn't the first interaction between the two. That actually took place following an episode of Kickstarter Crap uploaded by iDubbbz in March of 2014. The video discusses Dark Skies, a brony dating simulator game which was attempting to crowdfund $7,500 on Kickstarter. What Ian didn't know is that this was an elaborate troll conducted by Sam Hyde, and his video poking fun at the project was quickly struck down by Sam himself. Shortly following this copyright claim, Sam emailed Ian, saying that he would reverse the takedown if he sent a video of himself squatting 200 pounds below parallel. This issue seems to have festered for years leading up until this point. Ian claimed that he mentioned this fact as a way to break the ice and find common ground, but the surrounding context makes this look like anything but. His decision to mention this at the beginning of their one-on-one rather than casually during their interactions the prior 2 days made it seem like Ian was trying to ambush Sam. What's more, the following questions were undeniably confrontational and scathing, further drawing his intentions into doubt. This issue is further exacerbated by Ian spending 5 minutes in his own video explaining what irony is, going on to accuse Sam of utilizing it to obfuscate his true beliefs and avoid all criticism.
After irony, we have post-irony. This is where you say something in a way that makes it sound like you don't mean it when you actually do mean it. In other words, you're using irony to make a joke about how you're joking. Meta-irony is where this gets f***ed. This is where you're saying something sincere, but the context could imply that you're saying it ironically, yet the thing that you're saying is actually a sincere thought.
Sam's video was met with overwhelming praise from viewers, and it couldn't have come at a more perfect time. You see, iDubbbz's reputation was beginning to dwindle following his wife Anissa becoming a creator on OnlyFans. Ian made a video discussing the backlash, and while some of his points were reasonable, he clearly lacked the stoic demeanor he had been revered for in years past. The ever-growing negative reputation of iDubbbz reached a tipping point following Sam's upload. In an attempt to officially bury Sam in his career, he only managed to make things worse for himself, and in the present day we can see he never was able to recover from this catastrophic failure. All of this being said, Sam claimed no ill will towards Ian following their interaction, at least initially. Members of the crew also reiterated that they were thankful to iDubbbz for visiting and that it was all in good fun. Ian did not feel this way though, and future interactions between the two would demonstrate that clearly.
I think it's time to call in the big guns. I just texted iDubbbz. Yo, got a serious prob. This is Julian from Sam's phone. Can you call? Something happened. Hey.
What's up?
Well, first of all, I wanted to just apologize and, you know what NFTs are, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way, and this is me coming to you, hat in hand, like totally apologetic, could you help promote our NFT project?
I mean, I could sort of hear the little snicker in your voice.
I'm just kidding. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm alright. At the gym right now. I gotta get back to squatting.
Despite this drama, in March of 2022, Ian announced his influencer boxing match, Creator Clash, which was marketed as a controversy-free charity event with a roster of over 20 different YouTubers. One of these individuals was Harley Morenstein of the legacy YouTube channel Epic Mealtime. Initially, Harley stated he wanted to match up against Sam Hyde, who shares a similar height and build. Despite this request, Ian and his wife Anissa decided to go with Aaron Hansen of Game Grumps instead, explaining that including Sam would cause too many problems. Perhaps this was because of lingering issues Ian had with Sam behind the scenes. Then again, it's undeniable that Sam was in fact a brand risk considering his past, and erring on the side of caution for their inaugural event might have truly been a pragmatic decision rather than a malicious one. However, things would prove to be far more personal following the event. In spite of its success, raising over $1 million for charity, Creator Clash was plagued by drama shortly after its conclusion. This is because, since Sam wasn't permitted to match up against Harley, he chose the next best thing and trained him for the event instead. Understandably, Sam intended to see the culmination of Harley's work in person, but when he arrived, Sam discovered that he was unexpectedly banned from attending. To clarify, I bought 5 front row tickets and found out a few hours before the event that I was banned. So out about 11,500. Also, security was walking around with pictures of my face and bothering some people about wearing my shirts. And the cameraman was told to avoid entire sections of the crowd rocking my shiz. LOL. And I'd still train iDubbbz for the revenge match if he apologized. Mercy and grace are high on the list nowadays. Just gotta ditch Yoko Ono. This slight seemed to be the final straw for Sam, who aside from the occasional jab here and there, had remained relatively cordial up until this point. Now he was committed to going scorched earth, doing and saying whatever he could to antagonize Ian and his wife Anissa. This included the ongoing joke of calling Anissa Yoko Ono in reference to John Lennon's wife, who many have accused of breaking up the Beatles.
The thing is, man, I was going to root for him. I mean, I did. Even watching him, even after being banned, like deep down, I want him to be uncucked. I want him to get the tattoos lasered off, get a normal haircut, get rid of Yoko Ono. That's poisonous. That relationship is poisonous. She's like his entertainment handler. Like she's his fucking career manager now or something. She's got to go, man.
Whatever possible bridge that still remained was now thoroughly burned, and the two sides remained relatively insulated from each other. That was until the second Creator Clash, where Sam once again found a way to involve himself to the chagrin of Ian and Anissa. This time he was training Froggy Fresh, formerly known as Krispy Kreme, for his upcoming match against YouTuber Chris Raygun. Sam's collaboration with Froggy didn't seem to be an issue at first. However, that would soon change when the participant uploaded a video of himself calling out his opponent and referencing Anissa's OnlyFans.
On April 15th, if I don't hurt you beyond what anybody could have imagined, then I will subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans.
This video was uploaded to Twitter and was met with immediate backlash, most notably from Anissa's own mother, who posted a handful of insulting comments in the replies. Froggy responded in kind to the diatribe, only further fanning the flames of the issue. It's safe to say that both parties were in the wrong and should have let the issue die then and there, but things would get even worse when Creator Clash announced that they would be removing Froggy from the card. This decision was universally panned, with many people believing that Froggy was given an unfair punishment. I'm really disappointed by this. Kicking him for Twitter controversy after months of training is brutal. I don't think any jokes here made were intended to be mean-spirited or shit on anyone. Hopefully they reconsider this decision. The two event owners would eventually double down on their decision, releasing a lengthier statement that claimed Froggy committed multiple violations of their code of conduct policy, and attempts to reach out to him to resolve the issues were unsuccessful. However, many speculated that there was more to the situation than just that, pointing to Sam's involvement as a key factor. As it turns out, this theory was 100% accurate according to Froggy himself, who tried to reach out to me several times. And what are the several violations? Are you talking about when Ian called me the third time ever 15 minutes after Sam Hyde retweeted me to investigate my friendship with Sam Hyde, and then asking that I don't release any content with Sam Hyde until after the event? Haven't released any Sam Hyde content. Still kicked? I was never given any notice of violations. I got one email minutes before you went public about my termination. Justin Tracy called me while I was in Providence working with Sam. I asked that he could text or email me as I was busy training with Sam. He never texted or emailed. This was seemingly corroborated by none other than iDubbbz himself.
Because he knows why he was kicked from the card. The one indication I gave him was Sam Hyde, and I wasn't unclear about that.
At every turn, iDubbbz had dug himself deeper and deeper into a hole he was likely to never get out of. Worst of all, he got the exact opposite of what he bargained for, and undeniably revived Sam Hyde's career with this drama bringing millions of new eyes on his work. Early in iDubbbz's documentaries, Sam concedes that he had fallen off. However, only 1 year later, he was the single most super chatted YouTube creator on the platform. His Twitter went from just under 50,000 followers to nearly 500,000 in current day. Ironically, it's likely that many former iDubbbz fans who were unsatisfied with his newer content found a new home in Sam's corner of the internet. iDubbbz and his wife later imploded Creator Clash 3 without Sam saying a word. After this, Ian began streaming political content out of his in-laws' basement while being voted Lol Cow of the Year by Kiwi Farms. Sam has since capitalized on this growing popularity in numerous different ways. Unsatisfied with simply training people, Sam stepped into the ring for a boxing match against James Thompson. Sam won in convincing fashion, but what truly stood out was his post-match interview, in which he called out left-wing political live streamer Hassan Piker.
You got anyone you want to call out in the heavyweight division? Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker! I'm coming to you! In Los Angeles, at your house! Or in the ring? No, in real life!
Hassan would respond to this threat, rejecting the idea of a fight.
If you see a mentally ill Nazi, okay, on the internet, be like, I'm going to kill Hassan Piker. And you go, oh, this is some information that he should probably watch. Like, he should watch and address this. Then, honestly, just don't post and get the fuck out of the community. Just be normal, dude. What the fuck's wrong with you?
He has also been heavily involved with Fish Tank, a Big Brother-style 24/7 live stream that has been massively successful and generated hundreds of thousands of dollars. Die-hard fans might be wondering why I haven't mentioned it at all up until this point, and the truth is, it's a topic I believe is best left for another video. While Sam certainly had a massive hand in its creation, the majority of the lore and drama surrounding it is related to his right-hand man, Jet Neptune. However, it is still an extremely important part of Hyde's history, as it provided yet another massive boost in popularity, even being covered by the mainstream media. As mentioned earlier though, the crowning jewel of Sam's comeback is undoubtedly the return of world peace. Almost immediately after the Adult Swim cancellation, he made it abundantly clear he wanted to bring it back. Several tweets showed him asking fans for alternative names he could use. Over the course of several years, there would be numerous ups and downs to this project. In a turn of events, after the iDubbbz situation occurred and Hyde got Charles back on board, things seemed to be headed in the right direction. According to Nick, they were able to create the series with a budget of $3 million due to a mystery investor that got in contact with him over Cameo.
And then one of the cameos was this dude who was like, yo, I'm rich. I want to make World Peace 2. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Here's my phone number. Call me. I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's like, yeah, I'm going to come up to Boston with my dad. I'm like, yeah, sure. Come up to Boston with your dad. Then like a day later, he's like, all right, I'm in Boston. Where are you? And I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, yo, Sam, we got to go meet this kid.
Brandon Buckingham would interview this investor, who went by the name of Robert, who got the funds after being hit by an 18-wheeler while he was riding his motorcycle in 2020. You can't make this stuff up. Production officially began after this point, and the crew worked hard on the new iteration of the series. Unfortunately, there was one glaring issue. As you might have expected, they weren't able to secure the rights to the use of the name World Peace from Adult Swim. Eventually, they were forced to update the title to Extreme Peace, with it being officially released in 2025. So, did it live up to the hype? Well, if you ask the average MDE fan, the answer is a resounding yes. It contained a lot of callbacks to the old series, with the same edgy brand of humor present alongside very impressive visual effects and editing. As you can expect though, it's a lot more unfiltered, sometimes to the point of being excessive. I'm not personally offended, but there's only so many times that Sam can do blackface before I start to roll my eyes. Part of the reason why the original series was so interesting and subversive was because it was basically Sam and company fighting with the Adult Swim censors, leading to them getting creative with their messaging to be able to air something like that on mainstream television. With that filter now gone, some of the initial magic and appeal of the show seems to have been lost.
In exchange for all the scripts I wrote last month, I got a free BMW Z4. This thing's badass. Damn!
And with that, we are now in the present day. Somehow, through it all, Mr. Hyde has managed to come out of this with a fan base intact. So while many have wanted to take him down, he has positioned himself to get direct support from fans rather than advertisers, making him pretty uncancelable. On top of that, the people who do try to go after him often come across as annoying and don't do enough research to hit Sam where it would hurt, in terms of providing evidence to back up their claims. Others that could do damage don't want his hyperactive fanbase to attack them if put in a self-defense situation, leading them to just stay out of the conversation altogether. So I think this all leads to a very interesting dynamic. Sam knows all of the dirt I mentioned in this video is out there and will prevent him from ever going mainstream again, which I feel has made him even more extreme as he has no chance of returning to polite society, so why would he bother honing it in for a larger audience? And I think this is a shame because some of his best work was when he towed the line in the earlier part of his career. A lot of the time now, he gives political commentary where he's just racist. There's no joke really. Despite this, his most memorable bits and catchphrases will remain in the internet lexicon for the rest of time, and no one can take that away from him, even Sam himself.